Agriculture is a major contributor to economic growth in Nigeria, with a significant number engaged in production. In 2022, Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development reported that the sector contributed about 23% to the nation's gross domestic product. Nigeria is relying heavily on agriculture to drive its diversification policy, and a lot of strategic plans, especially in agricultural extension, have gone down the line to boost production. Over the years, extension programs have been the main conduit for disseminating information on farm technology, support rural learning, and assist farmers in developing their farm technical and managerial skills for increased production and quality. On the spot this week will be its searchlight on agricultural extension and how it is contributing to agricultural production. I am Joseph Utsen. Welcome to the program. The guest on the spot is a professor of agriculture specializing in livestock extension. He is with the Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria, Kaduna State. He is the chairman, Nigerian Agricultural Awards, a fellow of Agricultural Extension Society of Nigeria, and headed the editorial advisory board of Agro Nigeria. He was the deputy director at the National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Services before his present position. On the spot is the executive director, National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Services, Professor Emmanuel Ikani. Nice to have you on the program.
Thank you for having me, Joseph.
Okay.
Good morning.
All right. Let's start on the general note. Agriculture contributing 23% to gross domestic product as for last year. That's according to the Ministry of Agriculture and Rural Development. But if you look at down the line, 2021, it was 25%. Then if you go down to the previous 2020, it was 26%. During the Obasanjo's time, we hit in present time all-time high. That's 27%. Why we may be saying, it was said that agriculture contributed even more than other sectors, including more than the oil and gas so far. But if you look at this, the numbers, it's like we're not doing that well.
Okay, thank you. That's a good question. Like I said, I'm happy to be here and discussing a very important topic. Because agriculture is about life. It's about basic needs of man, food, and all that. So the figures you just quoted, you are right, you're correct. The issue about the 2022 figure compared to the other previous year is because of the experience we had in flooding. There was a heavy flooding, the type we never had in Nigeria last year. And from my institute, we went around the whole country, the whole of the local government, to do a survey of the impact of the flooding in the agri-space. What we found was amazing. It was no less than 700 billion Nigerian naira that was lost to flooding. That can explain. And you know, insecurity did not go down. It's actually becoming worse when it comes to the actors on the field. Farmers were the number one victims in the rural areas. And so if you put all those together, you can explain. And I even want to take you to the other ones, like the pandemic, the Ukraine thing that is affecting supply of fertilizer and other inputs to the country. So last year was historical when it comes to what they have agri-space experience, particularly the flooding. We did a national survey, and we need to do something about it. And you know, Nigeria is still rain-fed agriculture. We're not yet there into full-blown irrigation. Dry season farming is not yet there. And because we depend on rain, if the rain comes beyond what is expected, the farmer becomes hopeless. You know what happened? And what led to the depression.
Okay. Okay. You're there into agricultural extension. This is your field. You have been there. You do a lot of in that area. You just mentioned some certain challenges now. If you are going to the field, what have you been going to the field now to tell the farmers? Because you are responsible for impacting the knowledge, that's the technology and everything for them to be able to cope with challenges like this. So what have you been doing there?
Good. Extensions about dissemination of information, proving information that to help the farmers. And to tell you the truth, anywhere in the world, to change, to transit from traditional farming to modern agriculture. It can't happen without the extension being the game changer. So let you see, the extension structure in Nigeria is what we call the Agricultural Development Programs, the ADPs. That is where extension is done. So at the federal government level, the extension agents are hosted in the ADPs. And they're the people that direct the interface between the researchers and the farmers. So the question you ask, what do we go to tell the farmers? What we go to tell the farmers is what the research institutes are doing that we have worked on, step down the language that the farmers can understand. I give the example like the flooding of last year. When we went out, what exactly were the problems? We tried to find them out. And a major problem we found out last year was that in the 80s, between Cameroon and Nigeria, I was supposed to have 2 dams, one in Cameroon, one in Nigeria.
Yes.
I think in Adamawa State, to regulate this over excessive flooding from Cameroon. Cameroon did their own, Nigeria have not done their own. And so I have no control. And Cameroon will not allow its country to be submerged so they release everything to Nigeria. So the finding, we communicated to the ministry that is in charge of dam construction to checkmate this. Because you can't wish it away. The climate is changing. So that has to be done. Cameroon has done its own in the 80s. Nigeria has not done its own. This was communicated to the ministers in the ministries that have to do with entire resources. Even agriculture, we discussed with them. We had a policy brief I've submitted to the Minister of Agriculture. That's what I've done. And I've told farmers that you have to change with the current change in the climate. You can't be doing the old things you'll be doing. We're talking to them about going for climate smart agriculture. And this has to do with what type of seed you plant. To the time that is tolerant to this change, that is resilient to this change, that has short duration. You do it because we discovered most of the time now, the excessive flooding comes between October and November. That is when the farmer is supposed to be harvesting, and it's washed away. So if you do a smart agriculture, you go for a short duration variety of crops, you go for a resilient plant that can resist and you harvest before time, you're good to go. These are the things we are communicating from us. And then we've also told our ministry that we need to pump a good attention to dry season farming this year. That is now a policy brief to the ministry. Do take advantage of the flood plains, the deposit of topsoil, and do dry season farming this year. And that ministry bought from us. That's what we're doing in the farming space.
Okay.
Yeah.
You just talked about adapting to the trend, adapting to the global challenge and all that. When we who are reporters, sometimes when we communicate with the farmers, you hear the farmers talk about maybe support, and sometimes these supports come very late. The fertilizer distribution will come after they have already planted and everything is done. It's come already late, and then some other grants, maybe finance, come very late. So sometimes they struggle. Most farmers in Nigeria, they're smallholders, don't really earn that much, they don't have that much. They struggle to implement some of the things you are saying. Have you observed this, and are you communicating to other authorities concerned so that they make these things available to farmers on time so that they can execute, just as the advice you have given, they can execute this if they don't have the resources?
Good. The issue is this. If you want to move away and stop pretending that government can do agriculture, agriculture, if you're going to be doing that, as a business, government has no business to business. The only thing that government needs to do is to create the environment. You know, during the actual transformational agenda, fertilizer purchased by government was removed.
Okay.
I know about it.
Yes.
That policy, I was the one that covered Northeast, met all the governors, and told them federal government is no more going to buy fertilizer because it was a scam. It was removed. And the federal government saved billions of naira for not doing that. So purchase of inputs, in the real sense of the word, for serious farmers, should be the business of farmers. And they know when to do it. Because agriculture is time sensitive. If you leave it for government to do it, and it's in the hands of, politicians, they are not agriculturists. They don't know how sensitive that sector might be. So I'm only interested in this showing. So what I want to suggest is those inputs that the farmers need, the farmer should have access to credit. Have access to credit. He has the money with him, and he knows when to buy. Farmers are the most intelligent people on their farm. And so, if you ask somebody from outside to go and buy fertilizer from abroad and bring it in, you know how these things work. I don't want to subscribe to that. So, but we have, like I'm doing now on the TV, we do it on the TV, we do it on radio, telling farmers from all the ecological zones when to go do agriculture. NIMET is doing it, weather forecast. This is when to buy, this is when to do. So that you have problems. Because farmers, some of them believe that as it used to be, so it is. There's a change in climate. So have this access to tell farmers. And every year in my institute, what we do, we bring all the extension officers to our place at the close of every year to go through all the constraints. You actually do have a farming cropping calendar. If you are in Southeast, you are in Northwest, you are whatever, this is the time to do this crop. We have a calendar for each of the crops. And the farmers know what to do. But this issue of government should buy input, I don't think we are promoting it. We want the farmers to have access to credit, buy their thing by themselves, get it done. If it put in the political space, you can have it. You can succeed, okay, to be honest with you.
All right. Okay, I want to speak about specific crops in specific areas, because that was, if you notice, during the colonial time, that was what the colonial government specified on, and then they were able to reap so much, even in the post-colonial time, the early 60s and so on. Nigeria did very well in agriculture with some certain crops, but we'll take a break. When we come back, then we'll now discuss that. We'll see how much we are specifying on terms of crops now. Thank you. Okay.
NTA News 20.
Now, welcome back to the program. Executive Director, National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Services is on the spot. I was talking about specification. In the colonial time, there were some specific crops, palm oil, groundnut, cocoa, cotton, and so on. The colonial masters paid specific attention on this because they needed them, and Nigeria did very well. Agriculture, almost 70% of the labor force was on agriculture, contributed about more than 62% in gross domestic product. And even the post-colonial era, we did very well, and so on. The agricultural extension that was introduced by Gowon governments and so on, Nigeria was doing very well. Why are we not picking specific crops now? Looking at the dual zones to say, okay, here they can do very well in this, here they can do very well in here. The palm produce are still there in the south, in the east. The granules are still there in the north. Why are we not paying attention to them so that we can now reap the benefits of long term in terms of these products?
Thank you. It's a very good question. And like you said, agriculture worked before in this country. We still are now having a problem. I think we got derailed when we found oil in commercial quantities, petroleum. Easy money, derailed Nigeria. And so I don't want to go into all whether the boom is now a doom. I'm going to that. So, but agriculture worked before.
But we could have gone side by side.
Exactly.
And now we use the money in the oil.
Exactly. Unfortunately, we're not doing that. So, but the question you ask is about crops that have competitive advantage in a specific location. If you go to US, for instance, or Canada, they what to call the corn belt. The belt is where corn is grown because it has competitive advantage in that area. They have cotton belt. So the same thing, if you come to Nigeria, there's some crop that do, if Kaduna State, where you and I are, is the highest producer of maize in the country. So Kaduna State should be a maize belt. All our effort, whatever resources that maize needs, pump into it. If you want to do tuber and root crops, yam and cassava, it can go to Maiduguri or Northeast to get it done. If you want to do palm oil, like you're talking about, go to South. Those are the belts. If you want to do cocoa, you know where to go, Southwest. And so and like you said, when the colonial masters, when they knew where these belts were, and they were concentrating on that, the distraction, and it is a distraction from agriculture, happened when they discovered oil. And I think we should return back to our senses as a nation. There's no nation that can move anywhere until you fix your agriculture. Because a nation is what our citizens eat. And anytime you are importing any food from anywhere to feed your citizens, you have enslaved yourself, your citizens. So it must depend. And Nigeria, if you talk about potentials in agriculture, Nigeria will rank number 1 to 5 in the world, potential in agriculture. But reality, converting the potential to reality, we're not there. And I think it's time to get it done because our population is going to be the 4th largest in the world by 2050. The president just launched an agenda called 2050 Agenda. And by that 2050, Nigeria will be about 430 million people. The question is, how are we going to feed them if you don't pay attention to agriculture?
Okay, let's look at policies. Nigeria, when it comes to policies, you see laudable policies. Right from time, you had a lot of the National Acceleration Food Production, River Basin Development Authority, the National Acceleration Food and so on. You keep mentioning them on and on and on. But one thing that, what we call policy somersault, every regime comes up with your own design. Each regime comes up with its own thing. How challenging is this in terms of affecting our production?
I can tell you Nigeria has gone through what we call the Green Revolution. I've gone through so many revolutions on the agriculture. Operation Feed the Nation,
yes.
Presidential Initiative on crop production.
So many.
And all those came, GES, that is a growth enhancement scheme. Then we recently, NATIP was launched by the federal government, this present government. So, but what I want to say is this. The issue of implementation of policy is a problem here. People come in the name of development partners in agriculture and do whatever they want to do without the interest, the basic needs of national interest at heart. Nobody comes with money to do anything without his own personal interest. whether it is conflicting or he doesn't care, because there's no policy. Now I remember by 2014 we started designing the agriculture. I was part of the 18 professors that did it. They brought the documents, so the final print got to the ministry locally, able to follow it to the FEC. The advantage of that is that we now have a document on hand that regulates, that controls who comes to do what, how. And the beautiful thing about that policy is that we now have a document that tells us where will the money come from, who is going to spend the money, how, right from federal, state, and local government. That's the beauty of this policy, because the major problem of extension is funding. More banks started funding of agriculture in 1975 till date, when the money, the project vanished. The federal government, the states that are supposed to give their counterpart funded away. And because agriculture is on concurrent list, state cannot be cajoled to do whatever is not intended to do on agriculture. So some states now, as I'm talking to you, don't you have a ADP for extension services? Or your state is one. You know, if you go to the state like Bayelsa, you don't have more than 2 extensions. It's my last count, because we do census of extension agents. So what I'm saying is, the policy that's now ground.
These extension services, how do we take this message now to the farmers there? Most of the farmers are even in the rural areas.
Myself, luckily for me, I was in Egypt last year, and I tried to study, because we went to study the Ministry of Agriculture, how they do their thing. They don't have ADP. And I tried to see how they do the extension. And how they did it in Egypt is to leverage on ICT. They don't have ADP. Because the advantage of ICT that is now the in thing is that, like in my place, we have what we call the farmer's helpline. Farmer's helpline is an establishment that any farmer in the country can call us from anywhere and tell us what the issues are on his field, on his or her field, what the problems are. And then we tell in split of seconds, this is the solution from experts. If you cannot give that answer there, because it's a knowledge-based information giving, if you cannot get from a knowledge-based, you can escalate to other experts across the country. What is happening on the farm? This is the cause. Correct it this way. Go for this. That's what we are doing to back up with the ADP that's almost becoming redundant. I don't want to use the word moribund because they're not funded. And so the extension policy that this present government has approved is the way to go. It's a good move in the right direction. Now we have a document that will tell you, you can't do it this way. This is how to do it. This, you should give us output from this intervention you're doing to the farmers. So this is how you should generate fund. There's NATIP, I told you. NATIP has now, in that document, a dedicated account for agriculture. And the extension policy also has a percentage that's going to come from that dedicated account. And so funding, even if the state says the governor does not believe in it, this fund will take care of extension at the level of the federal government, the level of the state, and the level of local government, down to the local government. So funding will not be a problem after this. That's the beauty of that extension. And then there will be regulation. Even though the principle of this extension policy is what we call no one cap fit all. So it's pluralistic. If I have an extension approach that is working, and it's been tested to be working, you're allowed to go into the extension system. If it's not, we step you down. That policy is out to regulate. And luckily for us, we now have a Federal Department of Agriculture Extension. We designed, I was one of the people that wrote the script in 2012 to date, and it was established 4 or 5 years ago. It's working. So now have a department, unlike before, who can look at the policy of extension and regulate and control, and we're good to go.
Okay, let me just ask this. You just talked about ICT, and then, but you know, most of the farmers are not even ICT trained, and then that's where you talk about people hijacking. Some of the people who are in them, they could be the one communicating, sending the message that this is what they are doing. This one, the real farmers are, most of them are not ICT compliant.
No.
So what are you doing in terms of upgrading them towards that direction?
Yes, over 100 million Nigerians have a phone. This is what you're talking about. I'm not talking about a sophisticated one. Call. There's no very pure water sellers do calls now. You understand? So what we're talking about, the leverage on the mobiles. The farmer can receive text. A farmer can call and receive answer in his local language. And so that's what we're talking about, leveraging on it. And it's about 1 million Nigerians, more than 50%, close to 60% of Nigerians have phone. And we're trying to leverage on that. What are the issues? Talk to you. This is the time to plant your maize. Don't plant near this river. Flooding will come in next month. It's not like subscripting ICT. ICT means of communication. And that's what leveraging it. And we have the center already in my institute, Namal Building University and near LS. So we want the farmer to take advantage of this wherever they are across the nation. Once you can phone anywhere, you can get to us.
Okay. Thank you, Professor Emmanuel, Ikani, Executive Director of National Agricultural Extension and Research Liaison Services, for coming on the program.
Thank you for having me. I'm grateful and I appreciate it.
Okay, thanks. Good to have you. Okay, you viewers, thank you for always being there. I'm Joseph Oten. See you next time.